Pauline here, see, let's show this reflection. Oh, it's too much.
I'm having getting.
No, we can have people coming from outside, but
And we see more hope for doing even more. That actually, digest food we cannot digest.
Hi guys, how are you doing? This is your girl Beth Awino, and I'm back with a very interesting video to help us start the year. Before it's too late, just this early, you need to listen to this. So guys, there is an event that is organized by Qatar Women's Call, Qatar Professional Women's Network. So they have an event that is happening at City Center Rotana. I'll leave here the details. Yeah, only we're allowed to attend, but it's a thing that affects all of us about mental and physical well-being. Okay, let's go in. I'll share with you the full discussion and everything. So listen in and let me know your thoughts. I'm sure you'll get something there that will help you to grow mentally and for general well-being of your life. Okay, let's go in.
professionally connected. So please spread the news about QPWN. Here's our agenda for the evening. So I'm doing the housekeeping bit. And I'm going to actually pass you over in just a moment to Georgiana, who has helped really do all of the legwork to pull this evening's event together. Can I just actually have some of our QPWN, we are all volunteers. Those of our volunteer committee members that are here tonight, can I ask you to stand at your tables, please, just to say hello. We've got events and social media. Where's Carmela? She's outside. They're busy running around. We've got a team of volunteers that do social media. We also run an annual mentoring program, and that just kicked off in December, where we have pairs of mentors and mentees. We have about 15 pairs that run our full year mentoring program. So, but you've heard enough from me. I'm going to hand over to Georgiana. Georgiana, thanks for all you've done, and she's going to introduce the speakers.
Welcome to our in-person event in 2022. It's such a joy to have you all here and feel the vibe of in-person event. It was more than 2 years that we've been having online events, and we've missed this a lot. We've missed seeing you, meeting, discussing, networking. Actually, our lives have changed a lot during this pandemic, and we have a lot of stress factors in our lives. So that's why we have decided to have our first event on well-being in every form, mental, emotional, or even gut health. And our lovely speakers are going to give us some insights about what we can do to improve every day, just with small acts of kindness to ourselves. Just small things are enough to improve our mental health, but I will not continue. I will just invite our first speaker, Hiba. Let me introduce Hiba. Hiba is a mom, and a mom of two, and she believes in the power of pause. She has lived through her depression and anxiety, and that's why she created Sukun, her company. It's a platform for people in the Middle East who want to live a calmer life. With Sukun, Hiba hopes to challenge the stigma that surrounds mental health. Hiba is also director of business transformation at Ernst & Young, helping transform the tech business across Europe, the Middle East, India, and Africa. Hiba, please. I will just help you with
a lot during the pandemic, and I'm one of those people that went through a lot. Today's session will be a little bit personal. So I'm going to talk to you about my personal journey with mental health. I'll just get the clicker. Yeah. Hold on. One second. Mental health. I think there's a lot of judgment. There's a lot of misunderstanding of mental health issues. And at the end of it, I founded Sukun, which is very close to my heart. The reason that I started the company was to try and create a platform for people to talk about mental health struggles, but also find practical tools that can help them relax. I'll talk about what worked for the mental health journey. I think the first time I faced depression, and depression is a lifelong thing, so there's no cure to it, but you can manage it over time. The first encounter with it was when I got pregnant with my second child. So I have two daughters. With the first child, it was very happy, it was very exciting, but then I quickly got pregnant a second time. 17 was the first time that I had a full-on depressive episode. So that meant that I was non-functional. I couldn't work, so I'm very career-driven. And with trying to always do the right thing, be the best employee, be the best mom, be the best wife, the best friend. You kind of are trying to tick too many boxes, and you forget to be your own best friend. And so in 2017, it was a bit too extreme. I could no longer work. I took a month off work at the time, and I started in 2018 therapy. So I did cognitive behavioral therapy, which was a very eye-opening experience. I remember that I was very reluctant to do it. I didn't really believe that it would be effective. And in my first conversation with my therapist, I told him, there's no way you can convince me otherwise. I really believe that you're born with a certain amount of energy, it's finite, and you have options of how you want to use it. Either you exhaust it very quickly, you live a very full-on life. Yeah, it might be stressful, it might be short, but you know, it's very energized. And there's the other option of you taking things slowly, and you kind of have that energy spread across a longer, calmer life. Maybe you don't accomplish as much, but you know, it's another way to do things. This was my belief at the time. And I was like, and I'm from the first category. So, and I want to spend my energy full on at everything I'm trying to do. And he said, well, how has it worked out for you so far, you know? And so that was kind of, okay, that's not the right way or not the best way to approach life, trying to do everything full on all the time. And so my journey with therapy started. It's still ongoing till now. But life continues to happen and you struggle with it. I had a second episode, and at that time I took 2 months off from work. Also couldn't really function. But then you get support from friends, you get support from family, and I decided not to just do therapy. I went to a psychiatrist and I started medication. And I'm still on medication, and I think a lot of people maybe are not comfortable with that. I remember when I went back to work after 2 months away, one of my colleagues was saying, you know, it's been a long time since I've seen you, where have you been? And I said, yeah, I've, you know, had a mental kind of episode, and now I'm fine, I'm on medication, it's going well. And her response was, you know, you shouldn't talk about that because people will see you differently. And I didn't think that that would be the case. And I find that a lot of people struggle and they don't talk about it because there's a lot of shame around the topic of mental health. And I feel that if I talk about it myself, and I do that every opportunity I can, then anyone who is struggling maybe will feel that, you know what, it's okay. You can still function, you can still work, you can still be a good mother, you can still be a good wife, you can still be a good friend. And at the same time, you know, work on yourself to kind of improve on that struggle. So during that period, and then COVID hit, and I think a lot of us were affected during COVID, what I found difficult to find was tools, because I'm very fullon. And today I'm going to take you through what I really believe helps. So like I said at the beginning, this was my journey. I hope it resonates with, you know, some of you. But I'm not a therapist. I'm not a counselor. This is my personal journey. And if it works for you, if some of the things you hear today work, then great. If not, I would encourage you to try and find things that help you relax. So pausing. That, I think, is the best thing you can do for yourself. When life gets overwhelming, or even before life gets overwhelming, you should take time to focus on yourself. So pauses are extremely important, and in this section I'll just talk about why they are important. When you pause, it gives you time to reevaluate your priorities. Because if you're just going at life on, let's say, autopilot, things happen to you, right? But when you pause, you decide what you want to do, you focus on the priorities, and you're able to give your life a lot of attention, and you're kind of more purposeful about your life. Rather than having things happen to you, you're actually a decision maker in your own life. And you can't do that if you don't pause. You need time to really think, to reflect on how life is going, and then make decisions on that basis. Also, pausing, what it helped me do is spring clean my life. There are a lot of things that you tend to do out of habit, and you find that you don't have to do them if you really think about it, or there are easier ways to do them. So reflect on the little things, you know, build-ups that you're just doing constantly and they take away from your energy. When you stop and think about your life, you'd be able to reassess that. Remove the tasks that you don't need to do, And also, remove connections that are not necessary. Sometimes you have people in your life that, I think the way I was before, it's like I have to be social. I have to have people over all the time, or go out for lunches or dinners, and it was kind of a duty. And anyone you meet, you want to build a relationship with. I think it's much healthier to be purposeful in the way that you select the people that you want to really be friends with and how you want to spend your time and energy. So that's also one thing that I found was helpful when you reflect on your life. It also helps you restore your strength. It's very difficult to just keep going the whole time. So you need some time to, just relax, take time for yourself, re-energize, and then just, carry on. And I'll talk about this part a bit more later. Pausing helps you be here, now. A lot of times when you're just carrying on with life, you see things happening around you and you're not really participating in them. Whereas when you pause, you actually stop and you engage in life itself. And I think that that's very important, to really appreciate the small things, to spend time with friends, with family, to be in the moment. And you see that a lot with children, When they play, they really play. And I think that's what we need to do as grown-ups as well. Okay, I'll try to read them out so you can, maybe you see more hope for doing even more. So it kind of extends that growth ladder for you. And also pausing helps you get inspired. So it helps you take a fresh look at the world. Because, when you stop, you can see the same thing from different perspectives, rather than when you're busy and distracted doing other things and it just passes you by. So I think it's very important to be deliberate about pausing and pausing often, okay? So when should you pause? You should pause if you feel that you're falling behind on time. So if you feel that you're constantly late for things, you're constantly rushed, then you need to pause and think if you have too much on your plate. Should you reprioritize? Should you refocus? It's a very big indicator that it's not working. You need to stop and think. So when you feel that life is too fast, you shouldn't accelerate, you should actually stop. Think about it and then restart. You should also pause when you feel that you're falling behind on quality. So if you're, and that could be at work, so usually you're a very high performer, and suddenly your performance is starting to kind of fall behind. You're usually a very patient mother, you're losing your patience more and more quickly, you're having arguments with your spouse or with your friends. So if you feel that that's happening to you, again, it's a good indication that you need to stop and reevaluate. If you feel that you're falling behind on priorities, and what tends to happen in this case is you start to focus on the small things, the insignificant things because they're easy. And then the things that are actually important, you start to procrastinate because you feel overwhelmed by them. So that's also a time for you to try and pause and think things through again. If you're falling behind on health, and this is what Rana is going to talk to us about. This for me was kind of what happened to me in 2019 is I was going to the hospital almost once a week with stomach problems. So I would go to the ER with extreme nausea, and they check everything. So I've had my heart checked, my brain checked, I've had the blood works and everything, and it always comes back that I'm fine. And I was convinced that I had some kind of phantom disease that they're not able to diagnose that's causing this recurrent nausea. And you'll see from Rana's conversation, it is because I was going through anxious episodes. It's anxiety, and it was manifesting in nausea. But it often gets misdiagnosed. You go into ER, they check you, there's nothing physically wrong, they give you a painkiller and you go home, and then next week it's the same story. My therapist, she gave us a talk at work, and she was saying that as a psychiatrist, she's often the third or fourth referral when they can't figure out what's wrong with the person, you know? So if you're having recurrent problems that, you know, are not being explained, maybe consider checking with a psychiatrist, because it's very linked, and Rana's talk is gonna kind of like bring that message home. And when you're falling behind on life, so if you feel you're not enjoying life, the small pleasures are not giving you pleasure, you're constantly overwhelmed, then that's also a time to pause. But I think what's important is most of us take a break when we're nearing empty, right? You just keep going, keep going, keep going, and just before you break, sometimes even it takes.
Hello everyone, I'm happy to be here. Usually I do it on Zoom, but today is seeing faces for the first time. It's really good. So today I'll be talking about subject maybe some of you did not hear about, have emotional health. For today's presentation, I'm going to be talking about your gut is your second brain, and how microbiome, the small bacteria that lives in your gut, influence how we feel, and why good health begins in the gut, and all the signs that your gut may be in trouble, and how to eat for your good gut health and mental health. Let's begin. Okay, your gut actually influences every aspect of your health, from your energy level, to your hormones, to your weight and immunity. But for today's presentation, we'll be focusing on mood and brain health. Okay, our gut is our second brain. Actually, both the enteric nervous system and the central nervous system originated from the same tissues in the womb, and then they developed into both. More women are affected than men, I think, because women have more responsibilities than men, and it leads to suicide from age 15 to 19 years old, and it's still a stigma. Unfortunately, we cannot talk about it. They say, deal with it, there's nothing wrong with you, you have everything, just move on. Okay, and as I said, because your gut bacteria produce our neurotransmitters, which are serotonin. Serotonin is the one that really makes us feel good. GABA, it calms us down. What are the signs that our gut may be in trouble? There's a lot of signs, from mood swings to stomach problem, just like diarrhea, bloating, constipation, gas and heartburn, and fluctuation in weight, skin condition, eczema, acne, dryness, rosacea, and so on, difficulty in digesting certain kind of food, autoimmune conditions, craving, triggering. So stress can actually make your condition worse. And if we have, stress is good in a small amount, because this is what we call the stress, the acute stress that actually pushes us and motivates us in order to do something. But what happens when your stress is chronic and we don't manage it, especially in workplaces? So stress will actually become a burnout. So what is a burnout? A burnout, by WHO definition of it, it's a syndrome resulting from chronic workplace stress that has not been successfully managed. As Hiba said, it just keeps accumulating the stress and you don't pause, so you end up with a burnout. So when you're burnout, you are energy depleted, you cannot focus at work, you feel negativity, you feel you cannot accomplish anything anymore, and you feel ineffective, especially if you're on his phone. Nobody talks to one another, or we eat emotionally, or we take drugs. Not drugs, I mean medication. Yes, drugs mean medication, by the way. or we drink. Oops. Second thing after stress is eating on the go. What happens when we eat on the go? When we don't actually sit and eat and chew our food. When we don't chew our food, we're not digesting our food because we don't break it down. So when we don't break it down, we cannot digest. When we cannot digest, we cannot absorb the nutrient, and this is how we're going to starve our cells and starve our gut microbiome. And we end up feeling worse. Third thing is too many processed food, because it's easy. You can just order from Talabat something, and it's like with no nutritional value. So eating too many processed food high in sugar and high in fat, can actually give you a gut problem. Especially when we don't add enough fruits and enough vegetables, because they all have fibers in them. There's two kinds of fibers. You have the soluble and the insoluble fibers. So the insoluble fiber, it's good food for your gut microbiome. They will eat them and they will thrive. Okay? And the soluble fiber, we use them for our poop, to poop better, because you really need to have a good bowel movement every day. Okay, too much sugar. When we eat a lot of sugar during the day, this is actually feed the bad bacteria and starve the good bacteria. And this is, I don't know if you ever heard about SIBO and SIFO, which is the small intestine bacterial overgrowth, which can actually makes you crave sugar all the time, makes you have all these gut symptoms like bloating, diarrhea, and so on. Okay, this is a big one, antibiotic. Because I'm not saying antibiotic is bad. Antibiotics are good when they are needed. But I think there's an overuse of antibiotic. And antibiotic cannot differentiate between good and bad bacteria. So they end up lowering your diversity of bacteria. Okay? So, how can we eat for our gut health and mental health? First, we have to eat what our grandmother recognized as food, which are fruits, vegetables, legumes, seeds, meats, fish, so the normal stuff. The more you get packaged food, the more you get all these preservatives, the gums, the anti-mold, everything that actually we cannot use with myself. And I do some yoga as well. And I found journaling is very important, because sometimes I woke up, well, I don't know what's wrong with me. Maybe I'm cannot really pinpoint. So I start writing down about everything that's really annoying me. And then, yeah, now I know okay, maybe next time I can deal with the situation in a different way, because now I know what's triggering me and how I can actually deal with it. Okay, these are the life hacks for relaxation. As I said, journaling, talking to a friend, be creative, dance, color, draw, you can get out and move, have some fun, laugh, watch something funny, listen to music, take a break and meditate. And exercise is very important, because exercise can actually increase our gut diversity, and we have to exercise for at least 30 minutes, to increase our heart rate for 30 minutes in order to have the benefit of the exercise. Okay, this is funny. Keep a food mood poop journal. And if you work with me, you know that I always ask my patients or my clients to keep a food mood poop journal. And why is that? Because the food that you eat can influence your mood, as I said. Because some food will make me sleepy, irritated, happy, and energetic. Okay? So food translates to your mood. translate to your poop at the end, because you eat it and then you have to poop it. And from your poop, I can tell, I know it's a funny subject, but you can tell from the poop if you're digesting food or you're not, if your gut is healthy or it's not, and it can tell me the transit time from the time you ingested the food until the time you put it out, and how healthy your gut is. Okay, so let's take care of these guests living within us for our mental health. And that's it.
Thank you. My question is to about the pose. So if you have a job and you have a family, what definition is for the pose? How can you define pose? What type of pose can you take?
It's not easy, to be honest, because for me it was compounded with guilt, right? So you're constantly trying, like I said, to do everything. But pausing doesn't mean half a day off or, the full weekend is to yourself. Sometimes pausing is very small, little micro pauses that you have throughout the day. Wherever you can fit them, go ahead and do that. Like I said, it doesn't have to be something that's elaborate, but it's time that you take to kind of focus on yourself. Some of the things that Rana talked about with journaling, having a few moments of creativity, stepping outside, like I said, listening to music that you like. Some things that I do, like taking let's say a 10 or 15 minute soak in a bath. They're very small things that you can add, but you need to be deliberate in actually doing these as often as you can. Daily would be ideal, but reality is that sometimes it's not possible, but you have to kind of plug that in. One thing I do at work actually is, when you send calendar invites for calls or something, the default on Outlook is half an hour. So I do it for 20 minutes, right? So I adjust it, so it's 20 minutes, and then you have 10 minutes between calls. And now what's nice about things like Teams is it gives you a trigger before the call finishes, and there's 5 minutes left, so people are not going to overrun on the call. So manage the schedule for you to fit in these types of pauses in between. And at home, finding that place that's for you. Like I said, I just do it in the car. I sit in the car for 5 or 10 minutes just to be with myself, and that kind of helps me switch off from all the stresses and then go back. So it's little simple things, but try to do them as frequently as you can.
Hello, my question is for in this age of Talawat and Huda.
You enjoyed the video. Let me know what you think. Share, like, subscribe. Adios.